Alright, guys. Field Lacrosse Basics, Part 1. Are you ready? So, we're going to cover the basics of field lacrosse for right now. We'll get more in depth later, but right now we're starting with the basics, and we're going to start off with um, the general setup that you'll be in at the very start of every lacrosse game, every quarter, and every goal scored. You're going to have your goalie in your goal, and then you're going to have three defenders covering their attackman right across the restraining line, which we'll talk about later in this video. And we're going to have three midfielders lined across the midfield line. You're going to have two on either wing and one in or right on the face-off X. And then you're going to have your three attackmen right here, ready to spring into action at any moment. So we're going to finish drawing this team, and then we'll draw the other team, and then we'll start explaining. So again, goalie in the crease where he stays almost the entire game. The defenders covering their attackman to make sure their attackman can't just instantly pick up the ball and score. And then matching players on the face-off X. So we're just going to mirror them in the face-off. So we're going to have one player in tight, one player across, one player out on the wing, which we'll talk about later. So this is essentially your basic field lacrosse setup at the start of every single lacrosse game. So if you'll notice, these players are all lined up right across this line, seeming as if they can't cross it. And the reason why they're like that is because they cannot cross this line. This is known as the restraining line. They are not allowed to cross the restraining line until possession is gained. Possession, your ref will call possession when someone has possession, and essentially what that means, the ball starts here, and once one of these six players, three on either side, picks up the ball and the ref calls possession, these six players on this side and these six players on this side can then cross this line. The only thing is they cannot cross this midway line. So essentially that's what happens. And then these two wing players can run into the middle as soon as the whistle is blown to start action. But they're not allowed to interfere with the two people facing off until the ball is either popped out, they can scoop the ball, or until someone has possession, then they can touch them. But before that, once the ball is still a dead ball and neither one has gained possession yet, or the ball's not out here and you can't scoop it, you're not allowed to interfere with these two facing off whatsoever. So essentially, the reason why we have one player out here on each wing is that way you have one player that's ready to be a defensive player at any moment and one player that's ready to be an offensive player. Depends on what your coach tells you and what your personal preference is. This guy, he's closer to the offense, right? So he can run over here and be an offensive threat. This guy can run back here in case you guys are worried about getting scored on. So it depends on who you're playing, what type of game is happening. Like if you guys are a defensive team or an offensive team, if you guys are losing the game because of fast breaks, you might want to have your players all ready to start on defense. It kind of depends. So essentially that's the setup that you guys are going to be in at the start of every single lacrosse. So again, once possession is gained, you're going to have your three midfielders are going to run up the field and try to score on offense. And next, I will show you what a basic offensive and defensive setup looks like, and we'll talk about that in a second. Alright guys, so sorry if the screen changed on you guys a little bit, but we're now set up in our basic offensive setup. So we're going to look at the red team. They're going to be on offense, and then we'll transition to the blue team who's on defense. For right now, you have your red team goalie who's still in his goal. That's generally where you pretty much want him to stay the entire game. You have your three defenders right on the midway line, or the halfway line. And the reason they're not over this line helping their offense is because you have to have four players in your defensive end at any point in the game and three players on your offensive end at any point in the game. So defensively, they have their three defenders and their goalie. Offensively, they have their three midfielders or their three attackmen. So at any given point in time in the game, there are four people on the defensive end and three people on the offensive end. The three midfielders can be wherever they want as long as it's not out of bounds or within this crease. So real quick, the defenders are marking up on their attackmen, so they're covering all three of their attackmen so that if the ball rolls over, they can quickly get the ball and give it back to their offense. However, there are some new rules with over and back this year for high school level play, where essentially the ball cannot go over the halfway line and back, in which case the defenders can bat the ball back over, or if the blue team gets the possession, they're ready to cover their man. Anyways, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Right now we're going to work on a very basic offense and a very basic defense. So we're going to assume the offense successfully cleared the ball and set up in that offense. To clear the ball, you have to get the ball within the restraining box, which is this box right here. And this line is the restraining line. So generally, you just want to cross this restraining line. Once you move up to the higher levels, there is a certain required time in which you must cross this restraining line or get into the restraining box. However, generally at the very young levels or beginner levels, there's generally no time frame in which you have to do that. You just have to eventually do it. So, our offense is set up in a 2-3-1 or 1-3-2, depending on what your coach calls it. It really just depends. It's pretty much the exact same thing, unless they have a 1-3-2 and a 2-3-1. But essentially, it's the same thing. It depends on whether or not they start up top with their two midfielders up top, and then you have an attackman here, and a midfielder here, consisting of the three, and then you have one attackman behind, which is the one. So a 1-3-2 or a 2-3-1 is generally the same thing. Then you have your defenders, which are all covering their men. You have a defender here, a defender here, defender here, defender here, defender here, and one defender here who's not right on his man. And so when you're playing defense, you always want to make sure that you're calling out who you have so everyone else knows which attackman or which offensive player you're covering. It makes so much, it's just very helpful to always call out who you're covering. One thing you want to make sure you always are on defense is be vocal. And we'll get more into that later when we get into slides, who's hot, who's two, who's crash, or whatever, in terms like that later on. But right now we're going to work on when the offense moves the ball around, what the offense should be doing and what the defense should be doing. Generally, the offense wants to be very, very spread out, leaving the center pretty much wide open, except for this guy and his defender. The reason we want to do this is so that you can get to the middle and get open, and if you beat your defender, it's a long way for the nearest defender to come cover you, so you get open enough so that you can have a shot. But at the same time, if you're at a beginning level, you want to be close enough to each other that you can still catch and pass, which is the most important thing. You want to be able to move the ball around the perimeter. So generally, once you get the ball on offense, you're going to start with whoever has the ball, and you're just going to move it around the outside. If it ends up that this guy has the ball, he's probably going to want to pop out outside and then get a clean pass to one of the people on the perimeter, and the people on the perimeter will then start moving the ball around. Once you get more advanced, you'll have a lot more cutting, dodging, and rotation, but we'll get into that probably in the next video. But so for right now, you're just going to move the ball around for these outer 5 people. Now, the reason you want to move the ball around is because it leads to goals. And yes, just catching and passing in lacrosse can very easily convert into goals. And so if you watch a lot of high-end lacrosse, you'll see a lot of passing movement. And if you watch Denver University, right, DU, they pass the ball so quickly and so well. Every single pass is caught, but at the same time, they're moving it around the perimeter very quickly, which converts into a ton of goals for DU, which is why they're the reigning national champs, and they're currently ranked #1 in Division I NCAA lacrosse. So passing really does help. So make sure you can pass and catch. So move it around the perimeter. And the reason you want to move it around the perimeter as fast as possible while maintaining catching and passing is so that your defenders can get confused really quickly. And so the way this works is with slides. But so for right now, we're going to forget that slides actually happen. We'll talk about them a little later in this video, and we'll actually focus on them in the next video. But so let's say the ball starts up here with this attackman over here, or this midfielder offensive player over here. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to have this defender right here who's on the crease. And so I'm not sure if I explained this, but this is the crease, the home, the hole. It's essentially another imaginary crease right in front of the actual crease. So essentially he's going to come up here and just try to get in front of his man to block off a pass and get closer to this attackman. Because let's say he beats his defender, then this guy comes to him and slides, and that's what essentially a slide is, but we'll get more into that later. Then you're going to have this guy who would essentially be the second slide. For right now, you don't need to know what a second slide is. We'll learn about slides, second slides, third slides, slides rotations, and stuff like that again in the next video. But so you're still going to have your defender slough in. And this is what's considered sloughing in to the crease, or just sloughing in essentially. And so what that does is he brings all the defenders over here. Now the reason you want to pass quickly is because if you'll notice, this guy will be momentarily open. But so if you're a defender, you want to get not quite in between the two guys. You want to get close enough to this guy so that if he comes around and beats his defender, you can quickly either get to him or you can quickly either get to this guy right here. But you also want to make sure that you're still close enough to your own guy that if the ball gets passed all the way over here, which is a long, risky pass for the offense to make, you can still quickly get back to your man and cover him before he has any chance of scoring. And so what you want to do is you want to have your head on a swivel. You kind of want to be facing with your hips out, and you want to make sure that you can easily see this guy and this guy. So you want to have your head on a swivel. Make sure that you can see both the ball carrier and this guy. If you get caught focused on your guy, you might not see the ball carrier dodge, hit, and beat his man, and someone will be left wide open, and you were supposed to cover them, but you weren't paying attention. But at the same time, you don't want to stare at the ball, otherwise your man will recognize this, and he'll get wide open for a shot. So always make sure that you can see both the ball and your carrier and your man. It's very, very important. It seems very basic, but trust me, that's generally where mistakes come from, is when there's miscommunication on defense. That's almost exclusively where goals come from most of the time, is there's some miscommunication or screw up on the defensive end, and the offense takes advantage of it. So, you want to make sure that you always know what you're doing. You want to call your man, say who you have, be very vocal on defense. But essentially, let's say that the ball's still up there, and this defender has no idea what he's doing. The ball got moved around, and he got very confused. So instead of being here, he moves all the way up here, and now he's completely out of position, and let's just say he's all the way over here, which is past this guy, way too far away. If they passed it across, there's no way he has time to get back and cover his man. And so let's say this red attackman understands that and takes advantage of this. So the red attackman over here, he's going to be smart and realizes that his defender has effectively abandoned him. He's going to come up here, right, because that's a good position to score. And so this ball is going to be moved all the way over here. Now, I know it looks like this defender is in the way, but if the defender doesn't know what he's doing, and he's probably panicking and ball watching, which means staring at the ball, he doesn't know where his guy is, it's an easy pass to make over here. In fact, just for ease, let's say he got all the way over here, his defender still didn't notice him. That's one pass and one shot into a goal. And that's why you want to pass the ball as much as possible, because if you can get your defender out of position like that, then you get an easy goal. I'm going to give you one more quick example. So let's say ball's down here with this attackman, and then this defender is sloughed in all the way so that he's over here, which is completely out of position. Generally, you want to be right about here. But so he's completely over there, and his attackman realizes that his defender has abandoned him. So what his attackman's going to do is he's going to just find an open place on the field. So let's say the attackman gets right here, right? He just catches and shoots right in front of the goalie. Easy shot. What's going to happen is this guy's probably going to see this. He's either going to pass it up here, pass it across, or somehow the ball is going to get to him. He's going to have an easy layup shot and a goal. All because they passed the ball around and the defender got confused. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking that that seems, hyperbolic in proportions. It seems overblown. There's no way a defender can get that confused. It happens all the time, even at the highest levels, just when passing the ball around very quickly. Now, generally, it's more complex than that when people cut and dodge and do all sorts of crazy things, but this is at the most basic form how you can convert into scoring goals. And then real quick, so that's what these four defenders are going to be doing. This crease defender, he's generally going to stay and lock off his man, because if this man even gets the slightest opening, it's a catch and a shot and an easy goal. So essentially you're going to hear plays or a coach tell you to lock off your man, and essentially you're just taking both of you out of the equation of the game. Then this guy who's back here covering X, let's say the ball's over here, he's going to be over here. If the ball's over here, he sloughs in a little bit more. And same thing on the opposing side. And that's just to make sure that the offense doesn't score a goal. So anyways, this has been the very basics of offense, why you want to pass the ball around, what offensive formation you're generally going to be in, and what your defense is trying to do to stop you guys from scoring goals and how you can take advantage of that. So I personally have played midfield, attack, defense, and goalie for a pretty decent duration of time. However, I play attack and midfield primarily, so I do understand that a bit better than the defensive aspect of the game, but I still understand the defensive aspect of the game fairly well. But you might kind of notice that I'm leaning more towards the offensive side of things. So anyways, that's been the basics. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns or whatever, please put those in the comment because I would love to help you. If this video confused you more, I'm sorry. Whatever it is, I'd be more than willing to help. And so anyways, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and be on the lookout for my next video. Thanks for watching.